Hey there, this is Remi and this is Programming with Remi. Welcome to the second video on HTML Basic, and today we're going to be examining HTML architecture, learning about the architecture of HTML or the structure of HTML. So in this class, we're going to be looking at HTML understanding structure. We're going to look at HTML elements and tags. We're going to look at attributes, examine attributes. All right, so let me go to my first slide and let's go in a very fast speed. All right, so now in the last video, in this video now, I have this example of a magazine here, right? And this same magazine here is displayed on the computer. You will see that you observe that I have this first section here and I have the other section here, right? All right, so now this magazine here I have here now is also displayed electronically on my computer, on the computer that we have here, and that's a typical example of HTML. And the last video we said HTML is a text document, right? So in this magazine here, it said this magazine is same copy with the one on the computer, but it is the electronic version. This explains HTML structure. The same way there's a structure of Word documents, there's a structure of how documents are displayed on the web page. So if I examine this magazine more further, you observe that I have this heading, right? Say the truth about yoga, right? Now you observe that there's a particular way this heading is displayed is bold than the other content here, and I have an image in this section. I have this text colored. I have another image here. So that's the way structure are, and it's important we understand HTML structure to be able to add content to our web page. All right, so let me go to my next slide now. All right, so I have this illustration of a human body. All right, I have this beautiful boy here, or I said this handsome boy. So you observed I have he has so many parts together. We have the eyebrow, the eye, the stomach, the leg, the knee, the hand, the mouth, the eye, and and this make the body to become a structure, right, to function, right? So the same way, to understand HTML structure, there are three important three important things that we need to understand. We have tags, we have attributes, and we have elements. All right, so I'll start with tags now to understand tags. So now I have this illustration of a Coke can. Now if I give you a Coke can as my viewer and say okay, to just chill in this video, I'm giving a Coke can. Now how you know it's a Coke is because of the brand, right? So the container itself gives you information of what the drink is, right? So the same way tags act like containers. They are markup that define structure of rich content in a web page. So they act like containers and they are markup that define the structure of rich content in a web page. So take for instance the this magazine that I have here now. Now there's a particular tag that is functioning to display this, that will function to display this text to be an heading, and there's a particular tag that is functioning that display this also text in this particular format. Now let's go back to the last practical project that we did together, and this is our HTML code from the last example. Now you observe that I have this H1 and it's defining this particular text here. This is the main heading, right? So if I go back to, let me save this and go back to my browser, let me refresh this. You observe that I have this is my main heading. Now I want to observe this text. This text can be an introduction to the main heading or a definition of concept. Now this is another heading, right? Now let's say I want to make this heading more of something like this. So that means that there's a particular tag that I will use, a markup that I need to use to make this text look like this text. So let me go back to my Visual Studio Code now. All right, so now So this is the text here. So I'll just let me change this to a P. Now we understand what that is, and I have the other one P here. So let me control save this and then go back to my browser. Let me refresh. Now observe that the format of the text have changed, right? Now that's a simple understanding about tags. So let's go further in our slide now. So okay, so we have two type of markup. We have the structural markup and the semantic markup. And the structural markup, they define the structure of web pages such as headings and paragraphs, while semantic markup, they provide extra information such as emphasis and that's placed in sentences, quotation, acronyms, abbreviations. You're going to understand it more better in our subsequent videos. Alright, so let's take a closer look at tags now. So in this example, in this illustration, I have an opening tag and I have a closing tag. And I said tags act like containers, right? That they help to define the content of our web pages. So now, if you observed, I have this is the structure of tags. Now you see that I have this P and it stands for character. I have this left angle bracket, I have this right angle brackets, and or called a more than sign as known it in mathematics, and I have the closing tag here. But the difference between the two opening tag and closing tag is I have a what? I have a forward slash. Alright, so the character P indicates the tag's purpose. For instance, the P stands for what? The paragraph. So let's say this is an H1, it will start for an what an heading, right? So that's what the P stands for here. It stands for a paragraph. And also we have other tags which are called self-closing or empty tags. Now these tags are not in pairs, they are just single tags. Either, for example, this character BR, which means a break, is represented as this or in this format. So we're going to use this in subsequent videos. So, and also I'll put a link down below for you to have different understanding about tags, different tags, and how we can use them in HTML code. Alright, so let's go to the second slide now. So let's look at this typical example. Now I have this main heading here, right? And let's say this is my HTML code now, and this is the result. This is the main heading. Now you observe that this tag, the opening tag and the closing tag, and I have the content in between, and it helps to display this as in the format of a main heading. And that's an example. So let's have another example. Now this is a paragraph, right? And I have the P, which stands for paragraph, right? And I can see the result. This is a paragraph. Now I have under this is a self-closing tag or an empty tag, and you observe that HR, it stands for horizontal, and you observe that I have this horizontal line, and I have the under tag here, which is under paragraph, right? Now if you understand now, HTML works like a shorthand. In its terms that you use shorthands, so you have to note that. All right, so let's go to the next slide now. So let's also look at attributes. Now this is an illustration of a dating site, right? Now you observe that if people want to date on a site, they have specific attributes that the computer will display different people in that attribute for them. Okay, I want the man I want to date to have blue eyes, to be a doctor, to be a dog lover. So that is an example of attributes. Attributes add extra information about web content. So attributes are placed, also they are placed in the opening tags, and they give extra information of how content of the text or the image should be structured. So take for instance, I have a text now and I want the text to appear in a particular color. That's the function of attributes. So let's take a closer look at attribute now. Now if you observe from our previous example, right, I have this heading, say this is the main heading, right, and say I have the opening tag and I have the closing tag, and I said attributes are placed in the opening tag. Now observe that attributes have two properties: the attribute name and the attribute value. Now said attribute name indicates what extra information you are adding to the content. It should be written in lower case, and that's why I have this attribute name, which is called align. And if you are familiar with what document align to means, to align this content either to the center, to the left, or to the right. Also, we have attribute value. So this is the information or setting for the attribute. It must be placed in a double quote. So observe this. I have this equal to symbol, and I have this double quote. So this it's syntax for attributes. So different attributes have different value. Here the attribute aligns the content to the center. All right, so let's now look at elements. Now an element, an HTML element consists of an opening tag, closing tag, and the content that lies within. So this is the syntax for so all this can be referred to as what, as an HTML element. So we have this heading one, we have the attribute, and we have the content here now. All right, so let's look at different HTML classes. Now we have what we call nesting HTML elements. So most HTML elements can contain more elements except empty elements within them, which are in turn made up of tags, attributes, and other content or other elements. So what are nesting elements? It's in a layman's term, nesting elements is just saying elements that have elements inside them. Now let's look at the example that I have here. Now I have this opening tag here and I have this closing tag here, which stands for paragraph, right? And in between them I have this another tag here, and sorry, this ought to be a / here, which is a closing tag here. So we have building capacity depends on time and dedication. These factors are critical. Now this is the HTML code right there, and this is the result here. Now say building capacity depends on, now you observe that I have another elements in between and elements, right? And what this character does is that it bolds this content in between them, right? Which ought to be an opening tag, and there ought to be a / here, which is to show that this is the closing of that particular tag, right? So you observe that when I go to my result, building capacity depend on time and dedication. You observe that time and dedication is different in terms of the visual look than the other content here, which my viewer will be able to observe. Okay, there's a emphasis that's been placed on this. Now the tag that's responsible to that is what we call this B, which is represent, will serve as a bold tag. All right, so that's the example of nesting HTML element. So also a block level element. Now a block level element always start on a new line and takes up the full width available. Now this stretch from the left to the right. An example of a block level element, it's element that involves the using of the paragraph tag. Now you observe that I have this paragraph now, and we're going to understand this more in a subsequent video. So this paragraph is a block level element. You observe that I have this, I put a background here, which I had another code that we have not yet, that's CSS now, but we are not yet there. But this particular content has a background, and this background, you observe that this background tells us the length, shows us how this content stretch out. You observe it stretch out, both filling the left and the right of our browser. So that's an example of block level element. Also we have inline elements. Now inline elements are those which only occupy the space bounded by the tags dividing the elements instead of breaking the flow of the content. So now I have this content here, this HTML code. They have the paragraph here, right? And this is a paragraph with a block level element. You can see that it fills the whole page on my screen, and I have another paragraph here, but in between the paragraph I have a nesting element, HTML element, right, which is a bold, right, which is for bold tag, right? Now if you observed, I have this background to show me the space that it occupy in the results on my browser, right? So you observe that the paragraph here takes the full width, but the bold here, which is the element here, takes only the space allocated by the tags that was defined, which is the bold tag. So we can see that a bold tag is an example of an inline element. So also in the link video, we're going to give you so many examples of block level elements, and inline elements, and every one of them have their specific functions which they do. All right, so let's go to our next slide now. So we also have the head and the body elements, and we looked at the example of this in the last class. We have the head and we have the body. All right, so let's go back to our slide now. So right, so we have the head and the body. So the head element defines the title and description of the web page. The content of the head element are not displayed by the browser but are needed for underground necessity, which will be explained in further classes. All right, so also we have, while the body element is a section of the HTML document that is displayed by the browser. So I have my HTML code there, and I have my result, my browser here as a result. Right now, you observe that I have this doc type HTML. We're still going to explain that later class. All right, so we have the HTML, we have the opening HTML and the closing HTML, and you observe that I have the heading right here, right? And you see that I have the title, so that this is my website, and I have the title here. But you observe that I don't have this information in my browser. The only information I have in my browser is this is the main heading and this is a paragraph. So other information are not displayed, but are used to represent and to give me this particular content in the way that is defined by this tag. So that's example of head and body element. So all right, so let's go to our next slide now. So this is an example from the last class that we did. You observe that we have the code here, and we have the displayed a web page here, and you have see that I don't have anything called doc type element, HTML element displayed there, the HTML opening tag and closing tag. I have the head opening tag and closing tag. I have the title, but you observe that what is just displayed are the content, but what my HTML markup is doing is that it's displaying this particular content in the way that has been predefined by the tags. So that's an example. All right, so now let's now define different section of this particular different elements here now. So let me start from the first one, which is the doc type HTML. Now this doc type HTML, this does not have a closing tag. It indicates which type of document it is, and it is an HTML document. So this is more of for my browser, telling my browser, okay, this is a which type of document this is, right? Also we have another opening tag here, which is HTML, and what this was said, the opening tag indicate that anything between it and a closing tag is HTML code. So that means that from this it is HTML to closing HTML, it shows me that this is an HTML code. So that means that whenever I'm writing an HTML code, it's compulsory for me to have this HTML and closing HTML, because without it my browser will not display it as an HTML code, which is a web page, right? All right, so let's go to the next. So we have our title. So the content in this element is the title of the web page, which is displayed on the browser. So that's how you see that. For example, let me go to my browser. You observe that I have my browser here. So this title is my first web page. So that's example of a title. All right, let me go back to my slide. All right, so we also have the body. So it said this is the section of the HTML code that is displayed inside the browser, right? So you have that I have this heading one paragraph, right? All right, so we have the other tags inside the body. They are tags that informs the browser how the content should be displayed. And lastly, I have the closing tag HTML. This is the end of the HTML code, and that's what this represents. So this is a very typical example of understanding about HTML element. All right, so let's now do a typical example now. All right, so let me go to my Visual Studio Code now. This is the last project that we did. So what I will do now is that I want us to together to create a new HTML code for our class project, and we are going to be making progress on about this particular project. And as you're working on this project, I want you to also have a personal project that you're going to work on. So let me come to my class project that we created in the last video, and I'll create a new file. So I'll click on here, so and I'll call this let me call this index. Okay, before I do that, let me delete this first. Let me delete it. Okay, Alright, so now I've deleted this, so I don't have any file now. So let me create a new file, and I'll call this file index .html. Alright, so now I've created a new file now, and I have my doc type HTML, and I have my HTML, right? So this shows me that whatever is in between here is an HTML code. So I have my heading. So basically what I'm trying to do is that I want to use what we learned in class today. So title. Alright, so now I want this site to be called Renfix Tech. So we are building a gadget store. So and we're starting from scratch, right? So let's build together. So I have the heading. Alright, let me go to the body. Alright, so I have my body now. So let me first put an heading one, right? So like I said, let me just put a Renfix Tech. Alright, so I can put a paragraph. So let me put another paragraph, and I name this paragraph let me name this paragraph as a tagline. Say, let me just name it your space in the words, just like a tag. Alright, so now I've created that. Now let me just save this and view this in my browser. Let me go to my documents. Alright, so let me view this in my browser. Alright, now so this is an example of our HTML code which is displayed on our browser. Right now I want to use the attributes of align to align this content to the center, right? More of like a welcome note for our viewers on our browser. So let me come here. So we said attributes are contained in the opening tag, right? So let me add an attribute, align. The value, I'll put the value, and I put the value I want it to be in center. Alright, then also my paragraph, I also want to align it to the center. Alright, so to be in the center. Okay, alright, so I have it in center. So let me save it now, and let's look at the response from our browser. Now you see what I have it now in center, right? Alright, so I also want to add another paragraph. Okay, so let me say buy your gadgets at affordable price. Okay, I have that particular paragraph, and let me put another paragraph now. Okay, I will just say first user gets 10%. Okay, 10% is okay. 10% discounts from your first order. Alright, so what I want to do now is that I want to make this 10% bold. Now for me to do that, I have to add nesting element. So let me put a bold tag in between and copy this, use Ctrl X to cut it out, then place it in between this tag, right? And then save. Now let's observe. Ctrl S to save. Let's observe how our browser will display it. Let me reload. Now observe that this is the response, right? Buy your guide at affordable price, get 10% discount from your first order. And you see that 10% discount is more highlighted for my viewers to take emphasis to this, right? Alright, so let me now have the last so another paragraph. Okay, and let me put buy now. Actually this ought to be a button, but because we are not yet looking at button, so we just use a paragraph for that particular function. All right, so let me align this to the center too. Okay, center. All right, okay, so let me save this video. Let me save this, sorry, HTML code. All right, so let me refresh this. All right, so I have my buy now, but it's I want it to be bold. So what will I do? So let me come to my, let me add let me make this bold. So in between here I put my bold tag, right? Okay, cut this out and save. All right, let me go back to my browser, and then now Voila. So now this is our first web page in our practical project now. All right, so now let me go back to my slide. So what I want to do now is I want to take a pause and also try to um, create your own folder, your own practical project, your own personal project that you want to build, so that you can practice what you're learning. So use the knowledge from this class to add HTML element to your project, and the link will be down below of different tags, attributes, so you can play with it and try to see how it will be displayed in your browser. All right, so let's go to summary. So today we have been able to look at HTML pages. We said HTML pages are text documents. We said HTML uses tags to define web page content. We said HTML element consists of an opening tag, close content, and a closing tag. We said attribute requires a name and a value. Block elements are element that takes a whole block, while inline elements retain a position indicated by the tag. We also said the attributes add extra information about the web content. Okay, so this is where we're going to be stopping to this class, and hope to see you in further videos. And I want you to ensure that you subscribe to this channel and ensure you click on the notification bell so that you can get updates of new videos that we're going to be posting. All right, see you, have a wonderful day, bye.